inside the off stump. Oh, he's caught it! I don't believe it! Tom Kohler-Cadmore has caught the most magnificent catch. At short third man, it's the end of Daniel Sams, and Somerset have won the Vitality Blast 2023. They've bowled Essex out for 131.
Hello there, you're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is a Somerset Cricket podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd. Joining me this evening on Blasphemous Eve, I've got lifelong Somerset fan Steve Tancock, president of the club Sir Peter Wanless, digital guru for the club, looking resplendent in what I assume is a free Vitality Blast t-shirt that you get as perks to the job. Ben Warren's with us today, and rounding us off to, I think the only one of us who was brave enough to make the trip up to Chester Street for that game that finished on Saturday, Dan Kingdom. Dan, do you want to start us off with an eyewitness, ball by ball, blow by blow account of what happened last week?
So I wasn't there for Friday, so I was planning to see Saturday, Sunday, Monday, but in the end I got 2 sessions. So great. It wasn't the end of the world. Had a nice day in the northeast on Sunday. Went down to Beckenham on Monday to take that off for the Western Storm game. So anyway, it was just one
Durham
of those
down
matches.
to Beckenham.
Yeah, it's surprisingly quick actually.
Is it?
I got a train from Chester Street at 7:13 and was in London at 10:46.
That's
You can get some pretty quick trains. So, the match was just one of those games where we just play terribly, and it's happened a few times in the last few years. Thankfully, this year we've had overall an encouraging start, and it's the first time that it's happened. With the ball, we were good. It was obviously that last wicket partnership that killed us, really. I think we did what we can. Obviously, without Beddingham's innings, they may have really struggled. But even so, with the bat, I think we were so poor with the bat that we could have bowled Durham out for 100 and we may still have lost. We were just hoping, there'll be a recovery at some point. But no, we just kept going and going, and then 88 all out. We had no answer to Ben Stokes, who was obviously looking super fit, bowled 10 overs in a row. We got him out for a duck, but it was with the ball where he
smashed
did the damage.
Apparently, but anyway.
I'm not sure. Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say obviously in horse racing parlance, there was a virus in the yard. Josh Davey being patient zero with this sickness bug. Gregory just looked completely out of sorts with the ball. He looked like he could barely get himself to the crease, the poor fella, but he put a shift in as best he could. Banton had it as well. Apparently he was shitting out so bad that he injured his neck. It was that violent, so he didn't bat. Let's get all the disasters out of the way in one game. Chester Street's a hard enough place to go as it is, so why waste all the effort to lose a close game? Let's just get all our bad luck out of the way, because it's inevitable we're going to win the championship this year. No matter what we do, we're definitely going to win it. That's my theory on it. Steve, do you agree? And what was your thoughts on Tom Abell's return, brief though it was?
Well, I have a confession to make. I didn't see any of the game. So what I know is what Dan's told me and what I've read on various sites. So Friday work was just one of those days where I didn't even get to look at my phone until late. And when I saw the score at the end of the day and went through, I thought, okay, Sunday, me going up on Sunday might not be a viable option at the moment, but let's see. And then obviously it's all my fault because I saw that listened to that early phase on Saturday when the quick wickets fell. Then had to go out and thought, okay, that's good. Came back and thought, what the hell's gone on here? They Siddle and Rain added 60 odd, didn't they, down for the 10th wicket?
Yeah.
And then it had that awful air of inevitability from the minute Abe's was out for me. But even so, as Dan, there were two, looking back, and I read back through the reports today, there were 2 or 3 times in the game where if it had just gone a bit differently, as Dan said, if we could have got Beddingham, I know it's ifs and buts, but we could have got Beddingham early. If they hadn't put on that 60 odd for the 10th wicket, there was also, I can't remember, Banton and Pretorius started looking like they might do something in our first innings as well. So there was 3 times where we were very much in, if not ahead of the game. And you can take it 2 ways. You look at the table now and you go, oh, I had 16 points onto that. Look at that. Wow. But then you think, well, it didn't do us that much harm because the Millionaires got beaten down at Hampshire and, okay, Essex beat Kent, but it's closed it up quite nicely at the top there. So, yeah, as you say, Shep, it's out the way. It's not the end of the world. Move on.
I've still got this sneaking suspicion that Surrey and Essex are going to collude to deny us last game.
They don't play each other in the last game, do they?
They do play each other in the last game.
Oh, great. Oh.
But mind you, they could, the way that Hampshire have recovered and could potentially rise up the table, they could probably be saying the same about us doing the same with Hampshire. So who knows? Yeah, I mean, one of the positives, I suppose, was Miguel Pretorius. He was unfortunately concussion subbed out after he fell asleep during the tea break. I think there's a few cricketers I know that the amount of times they fell asleep in the tea break, they'd be permanently concussion subbed out. But he's been kept on for the blast. Not for the blast, but for during the blast. So I'm going to do a listener's question early this week. I forget who it was, but they may. I'll find it now. They made the very, very good point that there are still quite a few Blast group games left after the T20 World Cup finishes. Andy Hurry last night at the AGM said that Matt Henry was desperate to come back this year. So, am I putting 2 and 2 together and making 5?
No,
or
don't think you are.
Sorry, I'll find it. It's been a bit mad on Twitter today. I do want to give this gentleman credit for the question. Where's it gone? Yes, Richard Friedman said, with Pretorius being available for the T20 Blast, quote unquote, if required, and the T20 World Cup finishing before the end of the Blast groups, are we keeping one overseas slot free for a certain New Zealand pace bowler? Oh, Jordan Cox is out. So that's good news for Essex. We did discuss, listener, about doing a Soccer Saturday version of the podcast where we keep an eye on all of the various Blast games going around. So you may get an update for a game that finished yesterday. So we'll try not to do too many of those. I wasn't sure when Jordan
Cox was out if I should have gone, ooh, and then you could have come across to me for that piece of news. So I didn't.
I was up, Peter. I'm waiting to do that in the game I'm watching. So exactly that. So yeah. Wicket, go Wicket. No.
All right. I'll do that if that happens again on the game which I'm following, which is Gloucester Essex. Just on your point, Shep. I mean
Wicket. Durham 13 for 1.
That theory joins up a lot of dots, and you don't have to join up all the dots to keep your options open, do you? So it would be a dream scenario if all of that ended up with Matt Henry coming in and bowling us to finals day. But there are other players who will become available after the World Cup. So it seems a smart move to keep your options open.
I guess the only thing this year, whereas last year the finals day was in July, there was a period there where you could probably club together, a latter stage of group stage, quarterfinals, final day, with this super September that the ECB have gone with this year. It might be quite difficult to get someone in, and then they might have to go back and then come back and. So yeah, I think options open is a good place to be, and I mean, I'm sure we're going to touch on it, but there's still a lot of competition there, even with Miguel around for those spaces.
Because the other implication of the concussion sub, of course, was that Jake Ball came in and bowled really well, and there was clearly lots of love for him as a consequence of that performance. And I think I've heard on commentary that was his first 5-wicket haul since 2018. So that's quite something, and really pleased for him. And I think the team were as well, weren't they? It was great. It'd be great for his confidence.
He did bowl well. I just wonder with the coming in as the concussion sub is if you know you're playing in a game a couple of days before, sometimes it may just play on your mind a little bit and you get bogged down with how you're going to bowl and thinking about it a bit too much. And if all of a sudden you just literally plucked off the bench, told to take your bib off and go out and play, sometimes it can be just refreshing to just get out there and not have a plan and just think on your feet, not with any pressure, and just go for it. Maybe that's a theory we could use in the future. Just stick the guy we want as 12th man and then just bump somebody on the head with a frying pan on their way out. Concussion sub them in.
You might find that getting people to sign new contracts would be quite difficult if you adopted that policy too often, though.
Yeah, that is true. But oh well. What else have we got? I mean, there's not really much else to talk about, Durham, is there? Shane Berger fielded. That was quite amusing. So we had no more subs. Dan, I believe you were next. Told to get your whites on, just in case.
Yeah. Well, as you said, I had the Dixon shirt that you got me to sign, so I could have easily done that. I mean, it would have been appropriate for a Red Bull game to wear a coloured shirt, but
anything's good enough these days. Yeah, so I've got Ish Sodhi, Roloff, and Will Smead, I think, left on that one. So if you could nip over to the Caribbean and get Ish Sodhi to do that for me, that'd be great.
You've got a couple more years in which to get the Will Smead signature now.
Yes.
That was another bit of news.
That was a beautiful segue, Mr. President. That was fantastic. Yes. Announced today, Will Smead has put pen to paper. A new 2-year deal keeps him at Taunton until 2026. Don't think there was really any much danger of him going elsewhere. I think that was not one that we were particularly worried about or concerned about. Should we do a quick contracts watch then? I'll pull up my spreadsheet. Dan's probably already got his.
I did write it down and I have it in front of me. Not going to lie.
I've just got to filter not overseas as well. So, Sonny Baker, Tom Banton, Lewis Goldsworthy, Jack Leach, Old Ned Leonard, Alfie Ogborn, and George Thomas are your what's that there? Your magnificent 7 who are out of contract at the end of the year. Goldsworthy for me is probably the least like. I'm not saying he's not going to sign, but if you put those in order, most to least likely, probably Goldsworthy and Leonard, I suppose, would be the bottom 2. I guess. And then we've got Baker. I think Baker might need to. Sonny Baker might just need to have a decent sum of fitness wise. To get a renewal, but he is a box office cricketer. Just been unlucky with injury. Tom Banton, I believe, is going to just wander into the commentary box and announce that he's re-signed 6 months ahead of schedule again. Can't see Jack going anywhere else. Alfie Ogborn's made great progress. Can't see him going anywhere else, and likewise George Thomas.
Wicket.
Oh, go on. Who's out?
15 for 2. Ollie Robinson bowled Green. I can't believe Chris Green's not in the Aussie T20 squad.
Oh, they've got a few good players, one of which is Riley Meredith. Another good segue. Watched him bowl.
That was a nice surprise.
They were out training last night. I watched him bowl a bit. It was great because sort of Max Waller was with some of the academy lads, and obviously the first team were doing a bit of range hitting. And Riley was bowling to just bowling to a set of stumps, and a couple of the academy lads were taking it in turns to keep to him. And I think there was 2 others. One was Tom Rue. I'm not sure who the other lad was, and I think he nearly killed Thomas Rue, one that lifted, and it just got, oh my god! You don't normally face this in under 17s club cricket. So he was bowling some serious wheels last night, and hopefully will be bowling them tomorrow if selected. Squad of 13 was named earlier today. Who, gentlemen, is missing out from your 13s? I don't want to leave out Sean Dixon. I don't want to leave out Sean Dixon, but might have to leave out Sean Dixon.
I think it comes down to there's 2 spots. I think it's Dixon or Lambie and then 5
on Twitter, Dan.
and Ball or Davey for the third spot. I mean, it's so difficult, isn't it? I mean, I think they'll pick Dixon after what he did on finals day last year. Whether that's the right decision, I don't know. I mean, Lammonby started the tournament last year in the team, didn't do. He struggled, didn't he? Had a couple of innings where he really struggled and got stuck. Did have that one good innings opening the batting, but after that, I think he went. I can't remember.
It was
exactly
Hampshire, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He just got completely stuck.
Yeah, I think it was Hampshire at the Rosewell, wasn't it? It was when he got permanently dropped, basically. Dixon came in and did a solid job, and then obviously on finals day he did really well. I suspect we'll pick him just based on that. He's the incumbent. He was potentially the player of finals day last year. Those two innings were obviously vital, but equally you could say that on a Taunton wicket, it's very different. Assuming it's flat like usual, it's very different to that Edgbaston pitch that we had on finals day. So maybe there's less need for a Sean Dixon in the middle order. So maybe that gives Lammonby, a chance to come in. So I think if Lammonby is best, I think is better than Sean Dixon is best in T20 cricket. I think of Lammonby's innings against Gloucestershire 3 years ago. That was absolutely unbelievable, wasn't it? 92 off about 36 balls. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see the call they take on that.
Steve,
I think it'd be a really interesting call that because I think both it sort of says how much you value other formats and form, isn't it? Do you value T20 as completely a different game almost, or do you take into consideration the form? One thing I would say is that Sean batted really nicely in the twos game the other day, got himself 40 odd, not out. And actually in the range hitting session yesterday, he was really hitting the ball sweetly. It was noticeable how many times he was clearing the boundary on regular occasion in the net. So I know that it doesn't necessarily equate for anything, but I think that could be a really interesting call, because I think both Lammonby now potentially could offer an option with the ball that he couldn't do last year as well. So that's going to be a really tight one, I think.
That last point was the one I was going to make. My office was in the Trez stand today, and looking out over the practice session, Lammonby was bowling, so he is that option.
Here's one that's going to put the cat amongst the pigeons. I'm going to duck Steve as I say this. Could we potentially play Lammonby and Dixon and leave out Tom Abel, who has just come back from injury and is not in any sort of form? I told you I was going to duck, and I am just playing devil's advocate, but it could potentially be a way that they could go. That way you keep Lammonby, who's in great form, you keep him in, and you keep Dixon in, who's what T20 form is good. They may not even play. I don't see how you couldn't play TKC, who is obviously your best T20 player if he's gone to the IPL. None of the other lads have.
He's had a decent pre-season for the Blast, hasn't he? Plenty of practice.
Yeah, so I don't know.
TKC will play 100%.
Yeah.
Abel, I see what you mean. Abel, you basically be telling Abel, right, you need to go and find some form in second 11 T20s. I think there's 5 of them left, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Is that they've been washouts?
Not even necessarily find form, just just get the levers going. Maybe like a 20 off 9 balls or something. It might not be a game-changing game, but it gets the feet moving, gets the rhythm going, something like that.
Right.
I can't see it happening.
No, if Abel's fit, he plays, and I with respect, I'm going to argue the contrary to Dan. I think Ben was sort of heading that way. The Lammonby's in very good form in the Championship. I know it's a different format, but I would want that confidence to carry on and give him his run. And Dixon has got to keep making runs for the twos and be there as the first replacement for me. The fact that Lammonby, as we said, may be able to bowl, but also in the field is a bit of a live wire for me. He ticks all the boxes. And as no one's talked about it, as for the bowling spot, I'm picking Casey Aldridge. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I would pick Casey over the 2 that are in the squad for tomorrow every day. I don't know what he's done. He must have reversed into the coach's car or something in the car park, because he's just been appallingly treated and now seems to be not within a shout. I don't know what's wrong.
Well,
Wicket,
I think
Wicket, Hampshire 23 for 3. Ali Orr's out, and so is James Vince. Carry on.
I suspect Ben or whoever looks at the Somerset Twitter account is getting a bit sick of me quote tweeting Somerset squads or teams and moaning about the lack of Casey Aldridge in them, because I had the same thought.
And then I like them and retweet them, so yes, absolutely.
It's all engagement.
Yeah.
Any engagement
Personal,
is
Ben.
good engagement, I believe.
Well, we had Piers Morgan tweet us yesterday.
Oh
so there are
yeah,
mentions
yeah.
of
I still need to write a letter of
gone.
complaint about that, Mr. President. You'll be getting that off my desk. The club retweeting Piers Morgan.
Oh, the club retweeted Piers Morgan.
I know, it's disgraceful, isn't
The
it?
club. The club.
They close the
hang
Brian
on a
Rose
minute, hang
gates,
on a minute.
fine. Shut the Somerset stand, fine. No cans of drinks, fine. But retweeting Piers Morgan is the last straw.
What on earth?
The club retweets Piers Morgan, and of the people on this call, you're going to write to me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're in charge. Buck
That's
stops
very
here.
interesting. Do you know my? Have I told you my Piers Morgan story about on the day of the vote for day before the no, actually, was it the day before or the day of the Brexit vote? We had a childline reception at 10 Downing Street, and it was hosted by Samantha Cameron, and it was the very last event that took place in Downing Street. And at the end of the event, I was closing it, and I made a speech to say thank you for everyone for being there. And Piers Morgan was one of the people who was present at this event, and I made what I thought was rather a good joke. I said, well, we're coming to the end of the evening now, everybody. Thank you for being with us. There are many people who would like to remain, but unfortunately we have to leave. And it got quite a good laugh. Anyway, I'm on my way home and I look on Twitter, and Piers Morgan has tweeted, I've just been to a reception at 10 Downing Street. Many of us wanted to remain, but unfortunately we had to leave. My bloody joke,
Piers Morgan
no
stole your
credit
joke
whatsoever, passed off as humour from Piers Morgan. So I'm afraid I haven't got a lot of time for Piers Morgan. So if you write to me, I will sympathise with your observation.
I mean, I haven't got a lot of time for Piers Morgan because he's a
He supports Childline, so he's got that going for him.
okay, so maybe he's not that much of a right. Moving on then.
Sorry, can I just say I was dead chuffed because one of my tweets got retweeted by Somerset this week, and now I find so did Piers Morgan. So I don't know if I'm so happy or not now. Hopefully, no one's going to write to you about mine because it was just about Hallam Mosley, so that's not quite as cutting edge as
76.
I
this
like
week,
that,
good
Steve,
old
and I
Hallam.
had exactly the same memory of him pinging those balls in from the boundary with a
low,
flick of the wrist.
slingy arm there. Yeah.
I guess just the last thing on the Lammonby Dixon kind of option is it was only a couple of years ago that Lammonby was bowling the first over of T20 games. So they clearly do see him as an alternate angle and an option if he can get his bowling back up to and keep developing it. So I think that's a massive call. I really do. I think but good options to have. I mean, I don't think anyone would be surprised if either name was on the team sheet. So it just goes to show the strength in depth, I guess, that Somerset have.
30 for 4, Durham.
And 111 for 5, Essex.
Just to follow on from that point, the team that we could leave out is pretty strong. I mean, the fact that we got Goldsworthy, Root, Umi, George Thomas, all of them are viable options to come in potentially. I think George Thomas scored runs for the twos. I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing in the Blast this year. We got Pretorius, Davey, Aldridge, Baker, Ogborn, Leonard, Leach, and Bashir as reserve bowlers as well. Most of them could do a job in the Blast. Pretorius, Davey, Aldridge, Baker, and Ogborn. They've all got pedigree. Ogborn has done well for the seconds this year. He's done all right in the 50 over for us. Baker's obviously Baker will, I'm sure, play. I'm sure Baker will play this year. If he hadn't had injuries, Baker would have played T20 cricket for us by now. So I'm really hoping this is the year. Aldridge will definitely play. I'm sure Davey will get games. Davey's been a solid performer for us in T20 cricket for a few years. Leach and Bashir, Leach did all right when he played T20s a few years ago. Played a couple of them, didn't he? I'm sure Bashir will get a chance as well. We are stacked with options.
Yeah, and that's going to be important because it is 14 games over the time span. It is you're going to need a decent squad depth to have a run at this.
I mean, everyone's talking about these late night away trips. With the sides that you've just named, Dan, we could potentially, just send the second 11 down to Chelmsford for the second day of a road trip, and have the first 11 come home ready for their next game.
Simple.
Well, there's actually not entirely that, but there is some sense in with the bowling options we got, you could send a couple of the bowlers ahead so that you've got them. I mean, again, I'm going to hark back to baseball. In baseball, if you're about to go on a road trip, you will send your next two starting pitchers ahead so that they're in the next city.
Do you mean a bit
and the
like
distances? You're talking about San Diego to Boston's a bit more than Taunton to Chelmsford. So, I can see the situation where you might say to Josh Davey, Casey Aldridge, and Bash, right, you go to Chelmsford, you go to Hove or Canterbury or wherever, and then you've got three rested bowlers. That using what Dan's point about the depth of the squad, that might be a real, advantage to play.
Well, England did that, didn't they, in the 2010-11 Ashes? I think they played a warm-up game in Tasmania with the second-string bowling attack, and Broad, Anderson, Swan and Bresnan, I think, were in Brisbane on their own, maybe with a bowling coach, and the five of them were just netting and getting acclimatised to the humidity of Queensland. Is that Brisbane?
Another wicket at Bristol, 119 for 6.
Oh, Daniel Sams is out.
What's happening at Worcester, Dan? You've been very quiet.
Worcester at 96 for 8.
Oh,
I'm just very surprised. Yeah, I'm very, very surprised to see Ed Pollock batting at number 8. Sorry, not number 8. Ed Pollock is batting at number 10. Sorry, 9.
What?
He's a specialist batter, but he's batting at number 9. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. They have a lot of all-round.
Somebody obviously hit him on the head with a frying pan as he was going out to bat and failed the concussion protocol.
Yeah, I have no idea. I assume maybe he's being sort of held back because they're thinking, we'll recover first, then we'll send him in. But obviously, it's not really happened. There's just been another wicket. Yeah.
I think in terms of Somerset's depth, I believe there was a crucial match and a crucial week in 2022 when Somerset went up and played Lancashire. Might have been at Blackpool. Can't remember exactly. And then they came straight Southport.
Was that the game where Rue got? Did he get 100?
Yeah,
it was roasting on. It was really flat.
Yeah,
Jennings got a lot,
70 odd or something. Yeah.
And we had a couple of injuries going into that game, and then we went straight from there to finals day, and I believe we lost the finals day semi-final against Hampshire, and I think that was kind of a moment that the club have looked at and said, actually, Hampshire had a completely different bowling attack on that 4-day game that they played before the blast, and then they just rotated in Ellis, etc. They rotated out Abbott and Abbas, and I think that kind of model is what Somerset have looking to build more of, and I think that they are getting well along the way to having the sort of squad that you need to compete across both Championship and Blast cricket, because the schedule is, as we all know, it's tough, and very few sides do well in both red ball and T20 cricket. That's just a fact. There are anomalies, of course, across the years, but I think that week in 2022 really sort of paved the way for, and I think we're really seeing the fruits of that. Certainly last year, but I think actually even this year I feel like we're even stronger. We might have lost Henry and we might have lost Sodhi, and there might be a slight weakness in that side in terms of the star overseas players, but the other counties are going to have similar problems. But I feel like as a collective, I think this is the strongest Somerset group of white ball players that we've ever had, potentially, in terms of the numbers of them that could all come in and contribute towards a successful team performance. So I think Dan's made a great point that actually you could name an 11 players that aren't going to play tomorrow night that could probably win a few games, if not more, in the group stage. So it's an exciting time, and see where it takes.
Can we enter our second as like a 19th team in the Blast, like when they had Australia A in the old VB series, just to give the Australian first team some competition? That was good.
Listening to Ben.
Listening to Ben, I was just trying to remember what the bowling attack was for that Southport game. Van der Merwe was definitely one.
Van der Merwe, Amal Verdi, Lewis Gregory,
Brooks, I'm sure.
Siddle.
Renshaw.
Brooks played. I'm sure Brooks played that game.
Yeah, I think that's it basically. Yeah. Did Brooks play? I can find that.
Pretty sure he did.
Yeah, you're right. Brooks did play. Yeah, Gregory, Van der Merwe, Siddle, Brooks, Verdi. That was the bottom five. And yeah, Goldsworthy, Lammerby, and Renshaw also had a bit of a bolt.
But I think then they all most of because Siddle
would have done definitely. Brooks probably as
Siddle,
well.
Yeah, he was. I think Siddle was iffy for finals day, but ended up playing when he wasn't quite fit. Van der Merwe, likewise, hadn't played much red ball cricket. So Gregory, obviously, we know the kind of games management that he has to go through. So yeah, I think that was kind of. I think at the end of that finals day, it was like, well, how can Somerset get better? And it's actually this is what the best teams are doing now. They're at least at the bowling attacks, they've got fresh attacks that are coming in to make you competitive. And yeah, I think they like that Casey Aldridge doesn't even get in the squad. Shows you just how. And again, that's not to say that Somerset are going to go unbeaten or win 15 out of 17 games. You know,
well, the objective is always to improve on last season. So we need to be winning 16 and then 17 in 2025. Yeah, I'll just remember the comment that will probably never be repeated. I think we'll have to accept as Somerset fans that they're not going to win every single game. It's T20 cricket. Anything can happen. Anything could happen tomorrow night. Anything could happen Sunday at the Oval. But they've given themselves a good enough squad. I think over 14 games to get through the group, and then you're just playing. Let's hope it's your night sort of cricket, I guess. Absolutely. I mean, like you say, it's 2020 cricket. Anything can happen. That is a massive reason as to why, of all the great T20 sides you've had in the Blast for the last 20 odd years, nobody's managed to retain it yet. Well,
it was the first time.
Not Lightning's gone on strike twice. Yeah, it's the first time for everything. Just one last thing about the batting in the Blast. I've just got a tiny, and this is a very small little concern that Tom Banton, after being for 7 weeks really trying to find his red ball tempo, now in the space of a few days having to switch back to his white ball tempo. I'm just wondering whether that might be something that he's not had to do before, is go straight back into T20 mode after playing a prolonged period of red ball cricket. So I'm not suggesting that he's not going to do it and he's not going to score buckets of runs in the Blast, but it is just something that kind of popped into my head as a little bit of maybe a little concern, but I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Did either of our inside spies at the county ground today see him range hitting?
Yeah, looks good.
But to me, no, I think if Banton just had a couple of range hitting sessions, he'd be back in his groove. For him, I think the harder transition is going back the other way.
Yeah,
he just looks happy and confident, doesn't he? And part of something.
That's a big thing for him. That's a big thing for him, especially. I was just going to say,
sorry, Steve.
Go on, Ben. You finish off first because mine's a bit of a tangential point.
Oh yeah, it was just a minor point. I think that with Smead at the other end, Banton, he can take his time a little bit more. I think he's become a little bit more mature as a T20 opener than potentially we saw when he first burst onto the scene. So I think that sometimes he actually plays a bit more of the anchor role to Smead these days. But I think that either of them can go if they're feeling the right rhythm. But I think that Banton can relax knowing that Smead will probably be trying to strike at 200 plus at the other end. So hopefully that should give him the confidence that he can take a few extra balls than he might have a few years ago.
Of the top three, had the worst strike rate last year. Not a bad strike rate by any means. The strike rate was 149. Smead's was 175. And Kirk was 160. So Banton was last year the slowest scoring because partly because, as you said, he knows that Will Smead at the other end will basically go from ball one. But basically pretty much in every game last year, one of the three at least came off, and that was what got us a long way to winning so often.
Well, that was a massive strength, isn't it? Those top three, they all went for it. If one of them comes off, great. If two of them come off, fantastic. If three of them come off, that's absolutely brilliant. if none of them come off, then you think, well, maybe there's a bit more in the pitch than we originally thought. And over to you, Abel and Lammonby/Dixon, to play the sensible, mature knocks where you can still punish the bad ball, but you are better players at manoeuvring the ball around and stealing ones and twos than the top three. Likewise, Ben Green and Lewis Gregory coming in and boshing it to finish a game, or indeed pull us out of the proverbial like they did against Notts in the quarter-final. So everything's sorted at the ground, Ben. Have you got all your... sorry, Steve, you had a point I was going to make before we finish on this.
I was just going to say that listening to Ben and talking about workloads and everything, and so Ben, you got to think back to my starting watching Somerset when I was 7. Probably for the first 10 years, pretty much the rota or the schedule was Jampo on a Saturday, John Player League Sunday, often at a different ground against a different opponent, back for 2 more days of Championship cricket, Monday, Tuesday, then they play again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And that went on. The only breaks
Wicket,
you had in that
Essex 127 for 8. Luke Benkenstein is out first ball. Sorry,
and
Steve,
I'd just like to add to that, all these wickets are going to left arm seam, so get Lammonby on.
Get Lammonby on.
So the only break you had in that schedule was when it was the knockout of the Bentham and Hedges, when you played that on a Wednesday and they had reserve days. So you then potentially got the Thursday, Friday off, and the Gillette Cup games. So for more than 50% of the season, they were playing 7 days a week. And now you look back at it and you just think how, and you look at the Somerset bowling attack in those days, it was pretty much the same. You had Colin Dredge, Keith Jennings played pretty much every game. Garner, if he was over, both of them obviously when he wasn't at the Test. Vic Marks. That was pretty much the bowling attack, week in, week out. And I should look back and see how many overs those guys bowled in the season. But
and how many pints they drank each evening.
Yeah, there is that.
It was a different game.
That was the fuel of the gods then, wasn't it? And of course, it wasn't anywhere near as athletic a game. You can't imagine the Demon of Froome hurtling around the boundary and diving full length to save a boundary or something. I get that, but even so, they were trying to play elite sport at that level for that length of time. So, we can't really go back and look at the videos of that. But I think if we did, I would say, oh my God, I used to really enjoy this and think it was so exciting, and it looks pretty dreadful now. Ben looks so unimpressed. Ben's like, if I ever get my TARDIS, I am not going back to Taunton in 1975 to watch the second day of a championship game on a Monday.
Well, I mean,
it was fun, Ben,
also,
trust me. It was
I think
good.
we'd have struggled to live stream all this cricket.
I was just going to say, Ben, you'd have to quickly send a telegram to every member whenever there was a fall of wicket or anything like that. It would just be a nightmare.
3 wickets in an over for Matt Taylor.
Simon
for
Harmer's
Gloucester.
gone.
4 for 20. He's got.
Happy days. Let's just quickly touch on the women's ODI, which was a massive disappointment with the weather. I think only 6 overs were possible in the morning, and then it rained, and then it stopped raining, and then they were about to get underway, and then it rained again, and then it rained again. And it was called off about 4:30. Such a shame, really, because the ground looked amazing. Everyone had put in such a shift to get everything on at Taunton. It looked amazing, but the weather sometimes just cannot be beaten, which is a bloody shame. Speaking of getting the ground ready, Ben, as Sky, I presume by the fact that you're at home, Sky have not bollocksed everything up too much, and you're all ready to go for tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, having the sort of back-to-back Sky games is beneficial. They've kind of already installed a lot of the stuff. We're actually playing on the same wicket as the ODI was because of the it didn't really get used. So we're actually on the same pitch, which sort of all the gantries are set in. So yeah, no, things are in a good place. Where it's a slightly strange situation tomorrow with the fact that we've kind of normally we either give up the ground for Sky or we got control, whereas tomorrow we kind of have control up until 5:30, and then give it back over to Sky. So it's going to be a little bit of a new one for us, we stream Western Storm, and we sort of run that game ourselves, and then obviously Sky come and do their stuff for the Somerset game. So it'll be good. The weather forecast is good, which is nice. So
it's disappointing. Go on, Dan. You're probably going to say the same thing.
I was going to say it's insane that Sky are not televising the Charlotte Edwards Cup game. It's 2024. They've had 3 years of, the women's 100 has been lauded as a great success, but Sky are just desperate not to show any other domestic women's T20s. I think it's mad. I think they showed one Charlotte Edwards Cup game 2 years ago at Bristol. Apart from that, they've never shown anything on their main channels. They've shown the final once or twice on YouTube, but I just think their contempt for it is astonishing. Like, they've had cameras at grounds where they're showing the men's game, but they just don't, like tomorrow, they're just not showing the women's game beforehand. It's such a missed opportunity for them. It's just, I don't know. I know Sky are, they're a private company, they can do what they like, but I just wish maybe the ECB should be pushing them more and saying, hang on, the 100 is not the only women's domestic cricket that exists. The ODI, the England series against Pakistan is finished. They're not playing against the New Zealand series. Doesn't start for a few weeks. There's a gap now for women's cricket for a few weeks. So we have a few Charlotte Edwards Cup games on TV. So I think it's mad, really, that they don't show it. Real shame.
And Ben, can you not sort of nip out the back of the truck and plug a cable in so it's on Sky Sports tomorrow afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's been a lot of discussion around it. We've had kind of, there's a lot of technical things that have gone into kind of how tomorrow's going to work in terms of having like access to our big screens and all this kind of stuff. So I know that it's ultimately down to the camera teams and the hours that they're contracted for and the extra hours it would cost. It's a money thing. That's ultimately why we're told that they're not taking the Storm game too, but it is a shame. There's no doubt about that. The just speaking to some of the Western Storm players and staff today, they have to do all of the logistical elements for when Sky are here, but they don't get the benefit of actually being on Sky. So I kind of feel quite sorry for them in that respect. So they have to kind of like adhere to all the Sky regulations and protocols and that, but they don't actually get the benefit of being on telly. So I like to think that next year that changes, although the details are still fairly sketchy.
I'm in danger of doing all Shep's segues now, because there's a nice one from here into the AGM. But if there's a genuine commitment to promoting the women's game, and we wonder why women and children are more interested in the 100 than they are in the Blast, Sky will show double headers in the 100 and will promote the 100 for women, and then will miraculously declare how much interest women and children have in one version of the game relative to the other. So it's disappointing, but it's symptomatic of an attitude of Anyway, so that did come up.
I'm trying to find this tweet from Piers Morgan.
I missed it at the time.
Struggling at the moment.
I've blocked Piers Morgan on Twitter. That's why I didn't see it at the time.
He's blocked you as well, Dan, apparently.
Oh, right. Actually, I don't think he has. I probably have tweeted in the past, but I can see the tweet now, so he hasn't blocked me, seemingly.
Oh, can you?
I don't know what.
Oh, anyway. Well, if you could retweet that so I can find it, because I'm not having any luck. Yes, the AGM last night was not as well attended as previous ones, but I thought everybody spoke very well. You were spared a grilling from the membership, Mr. President, which I...
Everyone's interested in. Jamie Cox is the new kid on the block and the main attraction, isn't he? And he spoke with the directness one would expect from an Aussie, and he was engaging, wasn't he? And
definitely,
I think it was an interesting evening and a good conversation.
Yes, without a doubt. Listeners, you'll be pleased to know there's going to be an announcement on the bag checks and general security measures for championship games. So they are looking at that. He's very keen to allow perambulation onto the pitch, as he said last night. So conditions permitting, that's something that Jamie Cox, the new CEO, wants to happen. And Chairman Sir Michael Barber used a marvellous turn of phrase from a book about Winston Churchill called The Hinge of Fate, which basically means that this is going to be a pivotal season for the fate of the county game with regards to the other competition and the sell-off and how all that is going to look for the wider game. He said that it was model number 4, wasn't it, which is 49% of the equity in the teams, in the 800 teams being sold off, and then that revenue being distributed evenly-ish, I suppose, across the 18 counties. Did I get that right? I'm pretty sure that's what was said.
Yeah, I mean, it's the big challenge and difficulty I have with this, that I think we probably have as a podcast and lots of our supporters have, is that if we were in charge of the game, we would have not got ourselves into this situation. We would have created a different context. We would have spent our money in a way that marketed something different, and many of the outcomes that are now being celebrated as successes of the hundreds, it's not beyond the wit of man and woman to believe could have been achieved through a 2-division blast which put women and men's cricket on a more equal footing. So that is a big frustration. Unfortunately, though, we don't run the game. ECB run the game. There's a set of contracts that are in place, and there are options available to us that are constrained by the context and the thinking which belongs to the people who run the game. And so the challenge for Somerset as a club is, how do we make the best of this context? And I have Sir Michael has been reading Churchill's autobiographies and quotes the Hinge of Fate, and I've been reading more up-to-date political history. Tim Shipman's book on
I thought
Brexit.
you were going to say Liz Truss's 5 years to
God,
save the West, or whatever it was.
No, please, no.
I'll tell you what, she is definitely an advocate for the 100, Liz. I think loves it.
I think that's filed under fiction rather than political history. But Tim Shipman's book on Brexit has a Bismarck quote, which I'd rather been hoping to use at the AGM tomorrow, because I thought it would sound extremely learned if Sir Michael was quoting Churchill and I was quoting Bismarck. But Bismarck says politics, let's say the future of cricket in this context, is the art of the possible, the attainable, the art of next best. And so we have, as a county, to try and find the next best option within what could conceivably be available. So you're immediately in a kind of conversation which is compromising, where most of our members and probably all of us would ideally like to be. So I think Jamie did a great job yesterday at displaying what the context is, and it was quite difficult for him because, and he kept saying it over and over again, it's not my job to sell this to you, but this is how it looks and feels to me. And like him, I have been at Lords and seen Blast games there and seen 100 games there, and there is a difference in the crowd. That is true, but a lot of money has been spent to achieve that, and that's a set of reference points that are understood by people who live in urban conurbations and are really not that relevant at all to those of us who experience cricket in the West Country. So the other big problem we have is that some of the conclusions being drawn and observations that are being made by people who run the game who don't really understand the dynamics of the West Country and the context of Somerset Cricket Club. So there's a few of my kind of thoughts and reflections on yesterday. But I did think Jamie was very open, both about the context of the game for the 100 and very open in terms of, I think, some of the real issues that supporters have been concerned about. You've touched on about bag searches and the ability to go on the outfield and whether certain gates are open and this sort of thing. And I think just acknowledging those things, that I'm listening, I'm hearing you. I may not be able to deliver all the outcomes you seek because some of these are completely out of my control, but I'm here to try and make sense of that and have an open conversation with you. Let's hope that spirit continues. So there you go. That's probably about the most presidential contribution to a podcast that I'll make the whole season.
I think you summed it up. I don't think there was much else that I can add. I thought Jamie, he spoke very well. He's as most Aussies are. He's very direct. There was one answer to a question which I thought was very Australian, which I won't name for fear of embarrassing the person that asked it. But if you look on the recording of the AGM on the live stream on the Somerset YouTube channel, it's unlisted, isn't it? So to get to it, you need to go to your AGM email, click the link there, and then get to it from there. But it's worth a watch. I gather we had viewing figures in the several hundreds of thousands for it last night, Ben, or was it slightly less less popular?
How can I put this politely? We had a few watch, yeah.
I was on it.
Okay, so who were the other 24?
I didn't get the link.
Oh,
I've been missed out because last pod you had to send me the accounts.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's happened there, but if somebody could send me the link, please, so I can watch it back, because I had to watch Britain's Got Talent last night instead, Ben. So I've got to say, I think the AGM would have been better.
No, that was the AGM, Steve. That wasn't Simon Cowell.
No.
That was Andy Hurry and Vic Marks and Jason Gale.
Was that Peter Wanless on the pogo stick last night? Then I thought I recognised the bloke.
Yeah, of course, I'll send that through, Steve.
Make a point. Well, it's a question, really. Just a general question. Is it?
Oh, Dan's froze! Oh my God, we're on tenterhooks. Dan's, is it? And then he's done that deliberately. He wants to go and have his tea. And he's just gone, is it? And he's left the meeting.
Couldn't have timed that better, Dan.
Do you think I muted him?
Ben, you need him on your production team.
Yes.
Oh no, this is absolutely.
That was going to be a really difficult question, wasn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll quickly have a question from a listener. This one's.
Is that?
Oh,
So,
Dan.
I was very confused for a second because I was speaking and then you all suddenly went, and then you all suddenly were like, "Oh my God!" And then
you froze. So we got to is it, and then you stopped. So
is it accepted that the proposed split of the money from the private investment in the 100 is that it now? Is it going to be 51% of the host counties with 49% split between the all 18? Is it, because it seems to me that the host counties are going to disproportionately benefit from this, and I don't know if this is being questioned enough. I know the non-hosts have sought financial advice and stuff, but it just seems that it's just accepted. The host counties get all the money, or a lot more of the money than the rest of the counties, despite the fact that the 100 teams are collaborative, they're jointly owned or jointly run by counties, and the fact that all of the counties provide players to them. So why should the hosts seem disproportionately benefit? And I hope the club are pushing for for that not to happen, and for the non-hosts to get a decent amount, so the gap doesn't increase too much.
Yeah. So I would say it's not quite agreed. The broad shape of the distribution is increasingly accepted by all the participants, but the detail of what happens in terms of the distribution and the shares, if there were super profits, to coin a phrase, that accrued to some or all of the 8, how would they be distributed back to the 11, and what might be available to participation in the pathways? There's some detail there that's still got to be sorted out, and there are also some particular conditions and questions which Somerset has as a county about whether and what might be available for us, A, as a men's franchise, and B, in terms of our ability to fund the women's tier 1 team, where Durham, Essex and Somerset are in a materially different financial situation from the other 5 who are in the 51 rather than the 49 category. So those are the outstanding bits that are still being discussed, and people weren't given entirely straight answers about yesterday because they don't exist yet.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's somewhat reassuring though. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and that's all it can be, and where it ends up, as I say, who knows? Because I think there are all sorts of kind of imperfections and challenges, and we wouldn't have structured it like this if we were in charge, sort of thing, without going over the old ground. But yeah, that's where we are, and that's how Jamie set it out yesterday.
Yeah, nothing much more to add, really. We had just another question coming in. If Bance isn't fit for the Blast at any point, do you think Rui would come in and keep? TKC did it last year, where that one game Banter was injured against Essex. I don't
think George Thomas is a million miles away.
No.
From if Banton got injured, and I think Cola Cadmore could keep, and you could bring George Thomas in. I think that he's an exciting young cricketer who, I think he's going to have a very important role to play in the One Day Cup if he doesn't play in the Blast this year. But he's going to need opportunities in the white ball format soon. Definitely. So he would be an option. Obviously, James Rue would also be a very good option as well.
I think most likely if Banton gets injured, we'll pick our next best batter at the time, the most informed, whoever. And then if that happens to be Rue, then Rue will probably keep. If Rue does happen to play, he'll probably keep ahead of TKC. Maybe not ahead of Banton.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Effectively keeper, but yeah, as Ben said, I think George Thomas has a real chance of playing in the Blast this year.
Yeah,
exciting.
Definitely, without a doubt. Sorry, I'm just doing my my actual reserve team for the Blast. It's pretty good. I've got kind of batting spots left. Any other business, gents, before we knock it on the head and all get an early night ready for the double header tomorrow?
Well, I mentioned this to you before we started recording. I want to know what staff discounts are available for the Somerset Podcast shop. I was very disappointed with the answer, but I'll keep asking.
If I want a shirt, I've got to buy it. Yeah, I got a bit bored and thought, what I'll do? I'll test my incredibly poor graphic design skills. I've made some pretty naff Somerset t-shirts. But if you want to have a look at I can't remember the website. It's linked on our Twitter. somersetpodcast.myspreadshop.co.uk. There we go. If you do want to buy a t-shirt.
And will you be what's that shirt? Is that a batting or a bowling shirt you've got on there?
Well, my next project is just to do a t-shirt with batting shirt and a t-shirt with bowling shirt written on it.
That's a One Day Cup shirt, isn't it? You got on?
This is this is my favourite ever Somerset shirt, the 2021 One Day Cup shirt.
It's not one of the new ones, so you'll be down the shop tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be. Oh, how's my
poll
doing?
Put a poll on for people to choose. Go for the batting one, shirt, definitely.
I have. Do you not think I could pull off the pink one?
The 50 over shirt is very nice this year.
Well, that was a bit of a carry on. Nobody gave that a new misses.
That was my idea. That one.
Was it? Yeah, I like.
Yeah,
it.
I said that we should do a black out of the T20 bowling shirt last year.
Batting is 56.1%, bowling is 43.9%. So
Ooh.
Batting is winning at the moment of 66 votes.
Closer than the general election.
Well, 69 people now are concerned enough to advise me on what shirt I should buy tomorrow. But I am going to buy a bucket hat. They do look very nice. They're the old reversible
bucket hats. One of those already. As featured in
the.
Have you got your almanac? Because the picture of me in the almanac has me wearing the bucket hat. I'm surprised they haven't sold out after that piece of modelling.
Unfortunately, I don't. My second 11 team is going to be quite bowler heavy, but in me, George Thomas, Rue, Goldsworthy, Lammonby as a top 5. Aldridge, Pretorius, Davey, Bashir, and Baker as my bowlers. Just need a couple of batters in there. Anything else, guys, before we knock it on the head? Then
Nope.
All done then.
Good luck to the boys tomorrow. Good luck to Ben with his fighting scarf with pitchforks all afternoon.
Yeah, I can just imagine getting to Taunton tomorrow about whatever time I can get there and just see Ben wandering through the car park with a camera on one shoulder, a load of leads on the other side, so just steam going out of his ears. But other than that, it all looks good. I mean, like you said, all the stuff's there from the women's ODI, all the stalls and the stage and everything, so it looks really good. It's going to be a great night. See you all there. Dan, you there tomorrow?
Yep. Are we there? Yep, should be getting there around the start of their Storm game. So.
Brilliant. I'll grab that. I'll grab my shirt off you then and get the rest of the signatures on it.
Yeah, definitely.
That will pass a bag search, won't it?
A shirt?
Well, I don't know. The new rules in the new world. You might use the Sharpie to graffiti something as well, so they'll probably take that off you, and you could use the paper bag to, I don't know, throw on the pitch or something.
Don't try bringing in a Gloucestershire shirt, and you'll be all right. Oh, there's a
well
wicket.
said, Mr. President.
Hammond is out.
Mr. President.
Hammond. Oh, Fuller's out as well. Hampshire 96 for 5.
Durham 75 for 9, and that's Callum Parkinson and Dwasses have put on about 20 for the last wicket. So,
Miles Hammond's out 4 for 1. We've officially ended the podcast now, so you can. If you don't listen to anything more about Somerset, you can go. But we should just stay on for the next hour. Doing Saturday wicket alerts or
every
not.
time I've done a wicket, I stopped doing it because every time I did a wicket, I looked at Ben and he was just looking like, who is this idiot who's on the podcast with us tonight? So there was almost a hat trick, and if there had been a hat trick, I would have shouted, but I didn't, Ben. So I didn't want to wear you down the day before tomorrow. So
no, my game, Derbyshire got 163. I must be Samit Patel's debut, is it?
Yeah,
must be.
Did he score runs?
Well, nobody was doing the Western Storm game. What time did that start? Is that another one of these ridiculous midweek games? Oh no, that I suppose would have been before the Hampshire Blast game, wouldn't it?
Yeah. The Storm game today was started at 3 o'clock. Yeah, before the Hampshire game. Yeah, shame Storm didn't play particularly well, to be honest. I mean, Vipers obviously a good side. They got 170 odd, I think, and Storm didn't really get near chasing it down. I think tomorrow. Are we still officially recording?
Oh yeah, we're still going. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just check. Yes, tomorrow is a big chance for Storm to, get going. Like, they haven't won yet. They've won their result on 3 losses. They probably need to win 5 of the remaining 6 to get through the final stage. But tomorrow is a real opportunity. They like playing at Taunton. Sunrisers are one of the weaker sides in T20 cricket, so they've got to win tomorrow, really. And I think there's a good chance. And I want Luff to come in higher. If she's listening, I want Sophie Luff back at number 3. 4 or 5 is too low. She needs to come in soon, early on, and dictate the innings. Just, in my opinion, she's come in too late. A couple of times she's come in with too few overs left. She's not had the chance to really, stamp her authority. So I'd like to see her back herself and come in at number 3.
Oh, she's fairly active on Twitter, just Twitter. I think she's at Love Sophie. I think so. Give her a tweet, just let her know.
Yeah, if she follows me on Twitter, I could DM her.
Toby Albert, 115 for 6. It's Southampton caught Pope Bell Curran. Right, that's our final wicket alert of the night. I need to get off I'm not in my wife's good books at the moment with the AGM last night, doing the pod tonight, and then off.
Newton Abbott races. What was it?
Newton Abbott race. Oh, don't talk to me about my schedule. It's mental. And then I thought I had Sunday off, but my little girl is doing a dance show at River Dart Country Park on the Sunday, so I'll be going to that. So that's in the afternoon, and I don't think the Wi-Fi out in the middle of nowhere on Dartmoor is going to be particularly good for me to keep up to date on with the Surrey game. So I will probably just, I will probably
6 o'clock start Surrey game.
Oh, is it 6 o'clock? Is it?
Yeah.
Don't get me started on that. Oh no, I might have to rant again now about the stupid start time on a Sunday, 6 p.m. I'm still going, but it's really annoying, so I'm going to get back super late. Sunday Blast game should be mid-afternoon starts. And yes, there is a women's game as well, so that's obviously partly why it's at 6 p.m. But
Yeah.
they could both be convenient times. Instead, they want them a really annoying time. So
What would you have it starting even at 11 or something?
I would have the whole day. No, I think the women's game starts at 1:30 and Somerset game starts at 6 p.m. I would
Yeah.
start the whole day at maybe 12. But game 1 at 12, game 2 at 4. It's probably
Yeah.
ideal.
They managed to start a test match at 11 and get a full house there, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
could even-
yeah. I quite like 6. 6 for me is quite nice at the Oval. That's
Fair enough.
civilised.
Keep
Bit of a
keep
bit of a
Dan
lie
and Peter
in.
apart tomorrow, Shep, please, because they might come to blows. With Ben, keep your pitchfork away from the two of them if you see them.
Yeah. No, tough start.
Right.
Essex and Surrey, so yeah, hopefully at least one win.
we beat him both last year. We'll beat him again. Would he beat Surrey twice out of 3 and Essex 3 out of 3? So 5 out of
did.
6, and we're worried. I'm not. Right. Best of luck to Lewis Gregory and Somerset. Best of luck to Sophie Luff and Western Storm for Blast Off tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. starting at the County Ground. We'll see you all there, and we'll catch up with you next week.